All right, 6 o'clock. Are we ready?
Sure.
I think we have confirmation the other members aren't coming, correct? Okay, Jacqueline, Jit Paul, and Carl. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Um, let's start out with a roll call. Olivia, if you wouldn't mind.
Present.
Present.
Present. Rick Hunter
Here.
and Stephanie Rodriguez.
Okay, thank you. We have a total of 7 members. We're about to welcome Rick, a new member to the committee. So with 4 present, we do have a quorum according to the bylaws. So we're off and running. So welcome again, everyone. Thank you to the committee members who are here tonight and district staff, Van Pelt folks, anyone from the public. We welcome your comment coming up. Pleased to welcome Rick Hunter to the committee. I think, Rick, it would be great. I think we'll all just do a brief introduction so you get to know. I know you know some of the folks here, but I think we could start off by reintroducing who's here this evening and what they do. And I'm sure that would be helpful to you. And we can learn a little bit about you as well. So I'll start off. Carl Landers, I'm the chair of the committee. And I'm coming up on, I believe, 4 years out of 6 possible years on the committee. And I have 2 students in the district. So, well, want to go around this way?
Hi, Rick. Rick and I actually do know each other.
Oh, and don't forget to unmute your microphone as you go, please. Thank you.
We both served on the Planning Commission, City of Redwood City for a while. So it's exciting to see you and serve with you again. Rick is really does his homework. So look out, everybody. He really has some great questions. I'll take your lead. But already know a lot about me, but I am currently now retired. So I have a little more time. So I have a little more time to spend on this. So my kids all grew up in this district, and so I'm really happy to be part of this committee, which is really doing a good job. So thank you for joining.
I think you're coming up on 2 years, correct? I think June is your 2. Yeah,
Wow.
I believe, yeah.
3 years.
Hi, I'm Jen. I also, same as Carl, about 4 years now. I have 2
Vice chair.
vice chair,
Yes.
yes. 2 students in the district, and I am a construction project manager for Stanford University.
Please.
Well,
No, just I want Rick to meet everyone who's
okay.
always
Rick,
here.
we already said hi just
Okay,
before the
so
meeting.
you know
And
each
I'm
other.
Mike Wells. I'm school board trustee.
Hi, Rick. You have the greatest name in the world.
Oh, that's true. Now we're gonna have trouble.
Too
We're gonna
bad.
call on Rick. It's gonna be.
There we go. One name at a time. Rick Edson, Chief Business Official for Redwood City School District.
Olivia Costa, Admin Assistant to the Chief Business Official.
I'm Nick Olson, Program Manager for Van Pelt Construction Services.
I'm Eric Van Pelt, Vice President for Van Pelt Construction Services.
Martin Cervantes, Director of Facilities for the Redwood City School District here.
How many years, Martin?
32.
32 years.
Yep.
Wow. You don't look old enough to have done 12 years.
Thank you.
Salosh, I'm the accountant for the bond program, or for Redwood City School District.
Well, very nice to meet everybody. Rick Hunter, brand new, first meeting, of course. And I'm still on the Redwood City Planning Commission. I have to get off one of these days. Let's see, alumni of the district. We had 3 sons, all of whom went to the Redwood City School District and then went to Sequoia High School and are now, about late 20s, early 30s. And we have three grandsons, and been very active with, well, my wife worked for the school district for about 10 years. And so been very active, actually have been active in some of the bond campaigns that we are, now the lucky recipients of. And so just excited to be here and to meet you all.
Great to have you. Thank you.
And Rick and I go back 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, because Naomi started 10 years ago.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she was here 10 years prior to becoming superintendent. So yeah,
Mhm.
so it's been great. And I'm glad that you're on the team.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, great to have you. We have three members, as you heard, who aren't here tonight. Chit Paul and Carl. We have two Carls now and two Ricks. Are both came on with Jen and myself. So we're wrapping up second term, so 4 years on the committee. And Jacqueline, who's not here, I think is coming up on 3 years on the committee. So you get a sense of who's with you here. So welcome. Great to have you. We're going to jump into the agenda. Rick, any questions before we start just about why we're here tonight? Or I'm happy to go through kind of the duties of what the committee is supposed to do. If you read the bylaws, but feel free to ask any questions before we jump in.
Yeah, no specific questions right now. I really appreciate you sending me a copy of the bylaws, which I did look at. And I think I have a general idea. Don't really know how the meetings work, so I'll be looking.
You'll get a
lot.
sense. And you'll hear a bunch about Measure T and Measure S, even though they're alphabetically out of order. Measure T came first. We're kind of in the wrap-up phase on Measure T bond, and now Measure S is the new one, and we're in kind of phase 1 and just kicking off projects there. So we'll be talking about both of those bonds as we have oversight for both. Okay, the agenda for this evening is in front of everyone. Any changes to the agenda? Okay, not hearing any. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. All in favor of tonight's agenda? You're an aye. Okay, so we've got 4 ayes and great. This takes us to section 3 of the agenda, which is our public comment section. We always welcome members of the public to speak on any topic related to the committee's oversight. And is there anyone from the public who would like to speak this evening? Okay. We also take public comment during specific items on the agenda as well. So that moves us into section 4, our action items for this evening, and specifically 4.1, which is approval of the minutes from the February 25th meeting, which were attached. Any questions or comments on the last minutes? Motion to approve?
So,
Thank you, Janet. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Approval of the minutes. Approved. And we do have another action item tonight, which is we need to elect a chair and vice chair for the upcoming year. So please feel free to nominate yourself if you would like to take over the chairperson's role. Any discussion on the roles? Anybody want to volunteer? Jen, are you up for being vice chair again?
But
And feel free to raise your hand if you want to be the chairperson, get promoted. This presupposes that I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us whose terms expire before the next meeting. So Rick, is there already an action for the board to approve new terms for the terming members before the June? Okay. Before the end of June, because otherwise we'll have to vote again. So, okay, great. So I'm happy to serve as chair again, if someone wants to move that.
I will move the slate of officers as presented.
Okay, so the slate would be Carl Landers for chair and Jen Givens for vice chair.
Question to that.
Please.
So Mike, not a caveat, just a question. Yeah, you behave yourself now. The question is, you said that your term is coming up. You're not termed out.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, just as a reminder, we serve 2-year terms
Okay.
and we can serve a maximum of 3 terms. So my
Good
turn,
news, okay.
Jen's, Jit, Paul's, and Carl are up in June. And if we are approved by the board, we'd have 1 more term of 2 years.
Of 2 years. Okay. Okay, fine. I just didn't want it to
And-
be in the situation where you were termed out.
Exactly. And if you're approved by the board, then you would be going into your 2nd term of 2
Correct.
years.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And then if we don't like,
Well, there is a process for removing the members if needed. Okay, so do we have a motion for to elect me as the chair?
so moved.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we've got 4 ayes, no nays. Motion to elect Jen as the vice chair. Rick, you're
Sure. I'll do
okay.
that.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, 4-0 there. Congratulations, Jen. All right, we're moving into now our discussion items on the agenda, and section 5.1, I imagine, will be the bulk of the meeting this evening, which is to talk about oh, sorry, no, this is the annual reports. Apologies. So section 5.1, agenda item 5.1 is discussion of the preparation and review and approval of the annual reports, which is our one key deliverable from the committee. So those reports are due for the 23-24 fiscal year for both Measure T and Measure S. I believe at the last meeting, we got the auditor's reports, which was the last thing that we needed to start building these. At the last meeting, I believe I committed to draft the report. I submitted a number of requests to the district. Rick, thank you for the district's help. You got back to me last week with many of the items that go into the report. I didn't have a chance to craft it for tonight's meeting. So I will do that, and we will have a draft to review and approve for the next meeting. Any questions on that?
So when is it due? Is there?
Well, per the bylaws, there is not a specific due date.
Okay,
So it is due we need to produce one for each closed fiscal year. But it does not specify in our bylaws when it needs to be produced. So I'm just trying to do it in a timely fashion.
okay, so, okay.
Is Measure T anticipated for this to be the final report, or one more after this, I guess, this past year?
I believe we talked about that in a couple of meetings because the solar project is going to go even into next fiscal year, I believe. So we'll be reporting on Measure T for last fiscal year, the one that we're currently in, and the next fiscal year, I believe.
Yeah, but we'll look at that. We may not have to report on Measure T because we're using the bulk of money from Fund 35 from reimbursements from the state facilities grant program, where we might not be spending Measure T dollars any further.
Okay.
So there's some date at which Measure T is officially closed
Fully
out.
exhausted.
We don't know when that is yet.
It might be this fiscal year. when
Okay.
It's all said and done. So
Right.
next year may be the last report
Okay. Thank
for
you.
Measure T.
Any other questions on the report? Okay, then let's move into 5.2. This is the report from the ad hoc subcommittee on the lighting retrofit project. So, Rick, just to bring you up to speed, new Rick, not old Rick, who's already up to speed. One of the first Measure S bond programs was a $17 million project to do lighting retrofit throughout the district, replacing fluorescents with LED fixtures for cost savings, and because fluorescent replacement lamps are no longer available. There were some questions from the committee about how this was bid. And so we decided 2 meetings ago to form, which is one of the things in our bylaws, to form a subcommittee to look into this and bring back some recommendations for the committee to review. So Carl took on the responsibility for this subcommittee. And our report at the last meeting was roughly that we had made some requests to the district. We did get some information back. Because of the other Carl's busy schedule over the last few months, we have not been able to meet and discuss and come back. So we're going to continue the ad hoc subcommittee, but there's no report out for this evening. Okay, so that takes us to 5.3, which is what I was thinking we were on, which I believe will be the bulk of the meeting, which is talking about the progress on Measure S. The period that we are reviewing this evening, by the way, Rick, or for everyone's benefit, is the January 1st through March 31st quarter. So when we get into the reports on spend and such, all of that will be reflective of the first quarter, or not the first quarter, but first calendar quarter, January through March. But I'm assuming the update we'll get this evening will be, up to the current day in terms of how projects are coming along. So Van Pelt is the bond program management team for Measure S, and so they're here at all the meetings. Thank you for coming, and I'm sure you guys have some prepared remarks on what's happening with Measure S.
So I did a short slideshow for update on Measure S. Some of the things that we're working on currently are a facilities master plan. Oh, thank you. Sorry. A HVAC upgrade at 4 campuses, and a district-wide lighting project.
Thank you, Rick. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Forgot everybody can't see this on their computer screen. So the first one, there's a bit of delay here. The facilities master plan, you guys have seen this schedule before. We've showed this at community meetings, the site committee meetings, also the board workshop. This is just a reminder, we started this process back in July of 2024. And over the past few months, we've been doing site committee meetings, community meetings, board workshop, and now we're prepared to come back to the board on May 28th. So you've also seen this timeline at the last CBOC meeting. This has been updated. The yellow highlighted, we did a board study session on April 23rd. Our architects are currently working on an update from those comments, and final comments we're getting back from the sites currently. The current schedule is by the end of next week to have those out and published for a possible approval by the board on the 28th of this month. So moving on to the district-wide lighting projects.
Why don't you pause there, because I don't think we have a specific agenda item on the facilities master plan. So there may be questions, unless you had anything else on it.
Yeah, sure.
We could open up for
I
questions on the facilities master plan and process. Anything from the committee?
Under the community forum meetings, can you give me a rough estimate of how many people attended those meetings from the community?
We did one virtual. I think we had about 40 to 45 people.
I think at its peak, we had over 50, and
That was community, or was that staff? And
we didn't ask people who they were, every single person who they were in the Zoom, but the Zoom was meant for community, and it had over 50
good.
people in it at its peak.
It was a mix.
It was a mix,
It was a
okay.
mix of staff members, some board members.
Okay.
uh,
How do you feel the community involvement was on that, on all of them? from what you saw, did you feel that there was a good amount of investment from the community and their interest? I'm only asking because as we get through the whole process and we generally get through the end of a process, you start to hear people, and grant you, a lot of people are new to the process because it takes a long time to get this done and new people kind of come on board. But, even in the middle of it, we could start having questions saying, I didn't know about it. And you've done a great job getting it out there. I'm not questioning that. I'm just, on all the other projects you've done, how do you feel our community responded to this?
I would say I've done probably 6 master plans. Yeah, about 6 in the last 5 years.
Okay.
About average.
Okay.
You're about
All right.
average. There's definitely some communities where we would have hundreds, over 100 people in, but there's also some communities where we only get 10, 15 people in. So I would say you're about right in the middle, right in average.
Okay, average works, okay.
And I've done 4 actually separate from Eric, and I agree.
Okay,
It was good attendance and good feedback from the community.
okay, good. And the quality of feedback, that was gonna be my next question. There was good feedback. It wasn't just, being on Zoom without asking
Yeah, no,
questions.
at some of the meetings we had interactive feedback as well, where we got people to give us kind of their thoughts on the different project options and what they thought were priorities. And so that was all received as well. So
And so the people that, the participants that did have questions, was there any a time that you said, we'll get back to you on that?
We had 2 in-person meetings,
Uh-huh.
and I think most of those questions were answered at the in-person meetings.
Okay,
Um,
because my next question follow-up is gonna be, did you get back to them?
yes, I
Do you have a
think
process for that?
most of those questions were answered in the meetings.
Good.
We also did a community survey that we got a lot of feedback from.
Great. Good, thank you.
I'm curious, especially the in-person meetings, forums, how well received in general, and was there much pushback regarding equity on the plan? Did it come up? Did it come up anything like against?
Well, I think the challenge was, I went to all the meetings. I have some commentary to share. The challenge is this is just a wish list document, right?
Yeah.
It's like every school, we'd love to have this, and this, and then the next school, we will not this. So I would say it's hard to say what equity means in this context, because I think the equity question will be much more when the board says, okay, now we need to pick 3 projects. Then it becomes a real big question.
Yeah.
Right now, it's
Yeah.
just a wish list
Yeah,
for every school.
I think it's a very astute observation that kind of the equity as far as the bond dollars is going to come much more into play in the implementation plan, because it's important to remember, and we kind of hammered this home in every single meeting that we had, was you are going to have more need than you have dollars. And it's, I mean, unfortunately, the way it works is, and this is not something that's exclusive to Redwood City schools, it's usually over triple the amount of needs than you have dollars. So the equity question and the balancing of the Measure S dollars for equity is going to come into effect when it's implementation plan time.
That's fair. Thank you.
So I'm a little confused about the outreach, because you said earlier, I thought that you went to all the schools or and the site councils, but what I hear you saying now is you only had a couple in-person meetings and everything else was like one district-wide
No,
Zoom call?
we went to each of the schools with the site councils kind of for staff and the site council and the site committees that were there. We had broader community meetings that there was not a full community meeting in each school. There was a handful of community meetings in person, and then we did one in Zoom to try to capture as many people as we can. So yes, each school was touched from a site committee and a administrative perspective. And then we had and Nick, was it 2 or 3 in-person community meetings?
2 to 3.
Yeah,
at each school.
2 to 3. We had 2 to 3 site committee meetings, and then we had 2 in-person community meetings and 1 Zoom community meeting to try to capture as much community as we could.
But you actually met in person with all the site councils?
Absolutely.
Okay, oh, great,
Yeah.
okay.
Could I,
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't say that we met with every site council. I would say we gave every school the opportunity to put together, for lack of a better term, a facilities master plan committee that came in to hear about the facilities master plan and provide input. So some schools were very well attended with 8, 10, 12 people a part of that committee. Other school sites had problems getting people to come to those meetings, so they were much smaller. So there's a broad range. But every school site had a minimum of 2, and in some cases 3 meetings with the facilities master plan team, including the architects, to discuss the needs and the wants of each school site. And then that went into the planning for the community meetings where it was open forums. As Eric and Nick pointed out, we had 2 in person, one at Kennedy, one at Taft Elementary School. And then we had the virtual meeting as well. So 3 opportunities for anyone to show up at those meetings and learn about it, provide feedback or ask questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's really helpful. I just have a question in general about the meetings and the school's preferences, and this is just because I'm new and it's my ignorance. But I thought that when the bonds were on the ballot, that there was a requirement to list all of the projects that were going to be funded. So how does that relate to, new input that we're getting now?
Well, some of it is what type of project do you want to do that falls within the scope of the ballot language? You're absolutely
So the
right.
ballot language is much more general, and this is
Much
narrowing
more
it down.
general, right? So it may be modernized classrooms, and then we find out from the school sites that they need bathrooms in every classroom, or HVAC, right, is a big one that has come up. So some of the nuance, right, kind of bringing it down from the high level, so we understand individual site needs that fit within the scope of the bond language, right? So that's the work that BPCS, our internal team, along with the architects, are going through and I'll say categorizing, right, in terms of specific projects that fit within the scope of the bond language for each school site, that will be giving what are called IOQs, indicators of quality and scoring, that will be presented back to the board for each school site, anticipated on May 28th. That information then will be derived into draft implementation plans that will be brought back to the board for discussion, much to the comment that Carl made about the equity of the spending of dollars at that point in time. So this is just one step in a much longer process, and it's a document that looks at everything, knowing that we don't have enough money for everything, where it'll be funneled down to more discrete items as we move forward.
Great. Thanks. That's helpful.
I think one helpful point of clarification is the facilities master plan, as I understand it, is essentially a 10-year roadmap, because the last one was done 10 years ago, as to what the facilities need. It is not a bond program list, right? There may be multiple funding sources that the district uses over time to go through and check off the items. So the items in the facilities master plan don't necessarily need to match the ballot language. However, when the board goes to choose what they want to spend Measure S dollars for, then of course those selected projects will need to fit into the categories that are in the ballot. But the facilities master plan, in my view, I assume you all agree, should be a bigger scope than that. It's everything that the facilities need. And then the district has to figure out, okay, how are we going to fund this over time?
So I have another question. Can I ask another question about the whole document?
Oh.
Facilities? Okay.
This is the time.
I need an explanation on this. So I went through the whole document and I was looking at where it went with the school data. And every school except for possibly one is projecting a lower enrollment than they currently have. So I'm going to just go to Adelante Selby Spanish Immersion School, where the 24-25 school year is projecting 581. Student capacity is 976. projected students for 29-30 is 516, and your planned student capacity is 656. Every school is measured this way, not those numbers, but this way. So how do you make the determining factor of what that bottom number? How are you doing that planned student capacity, but you're projecting 516 and you're planning for 656? Is that a number you've picked? Is it a state requirement? Is it a guess? I'm just, because we're kind of all over the map on these numbers, and I'm just curious as to, this is all going to cost dollars. This comes down to dollars and cents. And so I'm just curious.
So the capacity is what the capacity of the school as it is today, right?
Correct.
Whatever the number was, Janet,
Yes.
900.
Yeah.
We'll just use round numbers.
Okay, good.
Current enrollment is 650 or whatever it is.
Yes. I get that.
And it says it's going to be at 600, right? A drop of 50 in my example. And that's not based on our guesses, right? That's based on a demographer's guess, right?
Okay.
And I will say it's an educated guess based on a number of factors of families moving into the area, birth rates, cost of living.
Okay.
And the demographers are showing, within a 10-year span, we'll be down roughly 1,000 students district-wide.
District-wide. Mhm.
Right.
That was my count. Yeah.
Right. And so when we look at that, we're not going to lose, 100 from 10 schools. It'll be more different schools.
Spread out.
Type of
Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
along with schools of choice come into play. Some other neighborhood schools will be impacted differently. So it is an educated best guess at this point, right? It's taken into account as they create the facilities master plan, and as we move forward, we'll make decisions based on projects of what we know in the moment, and
Oh, okay.
then
Okay.
when it will be implemented and what the impact will be if the demographers intuition comes true, right?
This is common practice, and is what you're saying. It's very common practice. Okay. I just was like,
I guess the quick follow on to
Go,
your
yeah,
question would
please.
be if Adelante has capacity for 900 and is projected to have 500, just round numbers. Presumably, if the board selects modernized classrooms at Adelante, would you modernize 900 students' classrooms or 500 students' classrooms? If you get my question.
Well, yeah, I do. And it would depend on how those rooms are going to be modernized, right? If you look through the facilities master plan,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I'll say, input towards flex classrooms and alternate learning spaces.
there is.
So some of those classrooms that were 2 or 3 might become 1 flex classroom,
Yes.
depending on the future needs that are determined by that site and by staff and by the board moving forward of what the programs will look like at these individual schools. So that'll have a major impact on it. But, certainly we're not, at that site, if we have capacity for 900, we're probably not going to go and build a new building, right? That type of thing. But we'll look at making the rooms that are there more adequate for teaching and learning in today's environment.
So then follow up if I can on that. Is there any opportunity, and it probably has nothing to do with this committee, but I'm going to ask it, for the enrollment to go so far down that you'd start looking at schools possibly not being needed, facilities not being needed, locations not being needed? I know that's a board decision. I'm just asking.
But that would be something that would be under consideration depending on the enrollment of the schools and the district as we go forward.
Then it would behoove the dollars then to make sure that they're really being, I'd hate to see us do a full modernization on a facility that isn't going to be
Right.
utilized. Okay, thank you.
I think that is a great example of, I'm sure, how hard it will be for the board to actually decide where to spend the money. This is the easy part. Like, what are all the things we could spend the money on? Where you actually write those checks is gonna, I'm sure, be very challenging.
Thank you.
Just a few comments from my perspective. I did attend all of the community meetings for the facilities master plan process. I think I can't fault the district. I think there was a lot of advertising for it. I think I saw it in 2 or 3 different places. Frankly, I was disappointed at the community involvement. I think at Taft and Kennedy, maybe there were 10 or 20 people there. And the room was set for 200 people. Because obviously you don't know how many are going to show up, but Mike was there at all of them. I was expecting a lot more community participation. Maybe it's just hard to get people to participate in anything. Maybe people are waiting until the board has to decide where to spend the money. That's when they're really going to jump in with a pick my school over another school. Because at this phase, it's really just the wish list for every facility. But I was surprised that there wasn't more engagement, given how important this is and that all these taxpayers are funding it. So that was one comment. One comment on the process, and I do think that you described it correctly, that there were the school councils that were formed to help make the initial asks that the architects then put into a draft and shared back with those school groups. I was part of one of them. Then there was the survey that was done. How many responses did you get to the survey, roughly? I mean, ballpark. 600 survey responses. And then there were the 3 community meetings, 1 Zoom and 2 in person. And then there was the draft of the facilities master plan that was not scored, that the board reviewed. Was that 2 weeks ago? I think what's been missing, and I did flag this to Mike and to Rick, is all of that community feedback, the board look, the scoring, none of that has gone back to the school sites to review and give their kind of final, yes, we agree with this. So there was the initial school involvement, but then with the community input, the survey, the board feedback, is there an opportunity for the schools then, Rick, to see that one more time before the board approves it on the 28th?
Yes, all the sites have access to the facility master plan.
The scored version?
Not the fully scored version.
Will they have access to the fully scored version before it goes for approval at the board?
Yes,
And when will that be?
the 16th.
Okay, so the 16th is the fully scored version, and that will go to the principals, and they can decide whether they want to get feedback from their community.
Yes, they can decide if they want.
And how would they then give that feedback if it's the final, how would the feedback be?
You don't understand what you're really asking. I understand the premise of it, but are you saying so that the school site can disagree with the scoring and say that this project in their mind is more valuable on the scoring, or are we, so it disrupts the methodology of the scoring? I'm seriously asking because I'm not following completely.
I don't know necessarily what the outcome would be, but here's how I understand it, just having participated, is the school sites got together and said, hey, we would like to have a new building here and a new gym and a new field, whatever they suggested, right? Then community input was gathered and surveys were taken, but the school never has had a chance to review that information and say, yes, we agree with that. We agree that the new field is the biggest priority, or we don't agree with that. And I would think the board would want that feedback from the people who are living with it every day at the sites.
They can certainly provide that feedback.
And how does that happen between the 16th and the 28th?
All the instructions for them to contact us to provide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions on the facilities master plan process? Okay. Thank you.
So moving on to the HVAC upgrade project. I'm gonna take a little step back here, just for history and scope. So, the district identified HVAC district-wide as a priority. The first 4 schools that are getting the HVAC upgrade are Adelante, Selby, Hoover, Roosevelt, and Taft. So we move forward with design on those projects. Those have been submitted to DSA. We've actually already got our first round of comments back. We're gonna resubmit later this week. We expect DSA official approval within the next couple of weeks. For those 4 sites. In the interim, for the other schools, we wanted to proactively get them air conditioning while we anticipate, while we finish the master plan and the implementation plan, so that we could get HVAC upgraded in those schools as well. So over the spring break, we delivered portable air conditioning units to pretty much all the classrooms, 380 units throughout the districts that we're currently installing and will continue to install over the summer. The board also approved for the 4 sites early procurement of the HVAC equipment to stay on schedule to keep it summer. So those orders have been placed. We are anticipate receiving those later this month and early June to start construction. We are currently in a process to select a leaseback contractor. We did a request for qualifications and proposals for leaseback contractor. We've already, thank you, sorry about that, received proposals, done interviews. We are queued up to bring a recommendation to the board at the May 14th meeting to move forward with that, and then at a June meeting, the first June meeting, to follow up with a guaranteed maximum price for the construction. And our construction window is this summer, so we're doing all we can to order whatever equipment we can ahead of time, which will include some pre-construction services with the contractor for early procurement of electrical equipment as well, and starting to mobilize on site so that as soon as we have an approved contract by the board, we can start construction. So we are working through those logistics right now, and hope to come to the board soon.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
So you said you were waiting to hear back from DSA? Is that
Sorry, Division of State Architects.
right? I have that in front of me. You're waiting to hear back from them? Is it?
So, Division of State Architect takes several months to approve plans. So we submitted in February. We got our first round of comments back from them, which is typical. We'll resubmit addressing those comments this week. And the second review by DSA usually goes fairly quickly. So we expect to have final approval from them within the next couple of weeks.
So every time you go and make a request, it costs a certain amount of dollars? I'm
No.
looking at the
No,
expenses here.
the fee is based on the total cost of the project. So we'll give them an estimated fee at the beginning of the project, and we'll say, we estimate that the fee cost X amount of dollars. Then at the end of the project, we'll sign the district will sign a document that says what the actual cost was. And you pay a fee up front based on your estimate, and then you pay the fee adjustment at the end if it's more or less money at the end.
So these fees that I'm looking at in the financial document are those up?
Those upfront ones that were based on the initial estimate.
Okay, because I couldn't figure out why we had all those fees in there.
Yep.
What roughly is the estimate for the 4 schools? Ballpark?
It's around $5 million a school.
5 million.
That's what he said. Thank you. That answers one of my questions.
It seems, I mean, this is what you do every day, but it seems risky to not have a contractor selected yet and start on June 9th. Can you characterize the risk level for getting the summer these 4 going?
That's why we chose the leaseback delivery method, was so we could have this RFP process. The way that Ed Code reads, you cannot enter into a construction project contract until DSA has approved. So you can't sign on the dotted line until it is approved. The board can approve it, but you cannot sign it. So with a hard bid, you would have to wait until the project was bid. With the leaseback, we're able to work a little bit in front of it with the contractor after we select them. And no, it really isn't that risky. It's the process. The district hasn't committed to any dollars yet. They don't commit to any dollars until they sign on the dotted line. So that's a pretty typical process. We kind of got a late start this summer or to these process. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I had a little bit of a medical condition this morning and I'm talking a little bit funny, so I apologize. But we had a late start to this summer because we were doing the master plan early on, and then we got direction to start the HVAC project probably about 3 months later than we wanted to. So these are definitely condensed timelines. There's no doubt about that. For example, we're starting the RFPs for architectural services right now for next summer for the HVAC. So it's going to be a little bit more, it's going to have a little bit more breathing room than this, but this is a fairly standard process, and this is kind of why we use that method of lease back, so we can do some upfront work with the contractors prior to them being under contract.
I think I wasn't referring to financial risk. I was
Okay.
referring to the schedule risk.
Absolutely.
Are you actually going to be able to start on June 9th if you haven't selected a contractor, or the board isn't even approving the contract until late May or even early June?
So they're approving the selection of the contractor in May, and then they'll approve at the first board meeting in June, they'll approve the GMP. And again, we've got the pre-construction agreement in May that gives them a month to get all of the everything set up, all of the facilities ready, and to hit the ground running. They will literally start the day after the board meeting once the contract's signed.
So you've already picked a contractor that can do it on this schedule, is what you're saying.
We are bringing to the board a recommendation for a contractor that can deliver on the schedule. Yes.
And if the board doesn't like that contractor, is there a second choice, or is it really this one or no one?
It is this contractor, or we'd have to come back with the second highest scoring contractor in the RFP process. That would be a schedule. That would be a schedule issue. So yeah, that's part of that kind of tight timeline that I talked about in the front end, because we kind of got a late start to this year.
So the board will either have to go with your recommendation or miss the summer schedule. Is that fair to say?
I wouldn't put it quite as concrete as that. There would be let's put it this way, there would be a mad scramble, and it would put the projects at severe risk.
Do you feel that that puts any undue burden on the board to accept your recommendation?
I mean, no, I don't. I think we would figure it out.
Okay. One quick question on the portable AC units. I know that was an important purchase to get some cooling in the classrooms for the spring, right? And you said that all 308 are installed now, or
Delivered, not installed.
Okay.
We're currently working with maintenance to install them, and with our contractor, if approved on the 14th, to install them over the summer as well.
And so what we're doing is the temporary units are a little bit of a different ball game. There's several different ways to install them, and it depends specifically on each classroom. And so we're going to install them kind of temporarily to start with, and then kind of the contractors, the long-term ones that are staying in place for a longer term. Over the summer, the contractors will kind of go in and tune it all up and get them installed a little bit better, since we know that they're going to stay in place a little bit longer.
because some of those schools are 4 years out, right? To get the
Exactly.
permanent
Yep,
HVAC.
you're right on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, last one. Are all the contracts pricing, will they hold their pricing, or are they holding kind of a contingency for tariff pricing of the?
It's funny you mentioned that. So, yeah, everybody right now is very worried about global instability and tariffs and how long the quotes are getting. We're getting quotes from people, or the contractors getting quotes from subcontractors that are only good for a week because they don't know what's happening from day to day. So there will be contingencies included in the contract. For that, there'll be contingencies included in the contract for unforeseen conditions and things like that as we go, to try to cover all of that up front.
The bulk of the material was purchased already, though, right? The board approved a pre-purchase.
Yes, sir. the board approved the pre-purchase. Really, the kind of the material that's outstanding from a construction perspective is the electrical material. That's the stuff that was not ordered. That's kind of it's specialty material. We don't like to order that kind of stuff without the contractor being on board, because if we order the wrong size, if we order it's so specialty and so exact, we want them to have the risk for that order.
Any other questions on HVAC project?
Sorry. Okay, to your question just a moment ago, so, or your statement, thank you for the tariff question. You said there'd be some contingencies put into the discussion. So do you ever ask, and this is a horrible question, do you ever ask for proof? I mean, like they come back and.
100%. So,
Thank you.
the way the contracts are written is they're open book contracts. So, with the contractors, they have to show us the backup, from all those purchases from, and I'll use an example. If we're adding an electrical panel, let's say they'll have to show us the backup for where they purchased. Here's the receipt for the electrical panel. Here's how much it cost. Here's the manpower, that we use to install it. Here's the labor rates, and our contract holds them to certain labor rates. And that's one of Nick's primary jobs. Nick and the team's primary jobs will be to any of those uses of the contingency. They'll get in, they'll vet those uses and make sure that the hours seem reasonable, the labor rates match the required contract, they have the proper backup for any material they purchase. All of that's reviewed.
What do you feel the risk level is on the 5 million? I mean, could it be 10 million, or would it might be 5.5 million?
I would hope we're within 10%. That would be my hope. Everything's coming in a little bit high right now because of the tariff risk, and it's a weird industry where, yes, the prices maybe haven't been actualized right now yet, but the instability and the not knowing makes people put extra money into things just to make sure that they're covered. These are a little bit better because they're shorter term projects. If we were doing like an 18-month project or a bigger project that's long term, we would be having a little bit different discussion about that, because there's a lot of people that are going to protect themselves when they submit bids for that to make sure that something weird doesn't happen.
So for the, that brings up a question. For the cost estimates that are in the facilities master plan, presumably that's a database that's all pre-tariff, right? All those things are going to cost more than probably what's in there.
So and it's important to note too. So the architect hires the cost estimator to do that as part of the facilities master plan. The cost estimator does have a large database, just like you said. That database is usually updated live, so there's adjustments, but you're right. It takes a couple months to pick up adjustments here and there. You also have to remember that once we plug all that into the implementation plan, we'll plug it into a schedule too, and we'll start talking about escalation, because some of these projects will be 3, 4, or 5 years out. And we'll talk about that. Yeah, costs are going to increase at that point as you plug these into the schedule. So those will be the initial kind of baseline. These are the costs in today's dollars. As we work through the implementation plan and develop the schedule, we'll add money to projects for escalation. We'll add money for projects as we see maybe they need some temporary housing, things like that. And so those numbers will be the baseline, but yes, they will be adjusted in the implementation plan for all of those different factors.
All right.
Any other
Please.
questions on
Yeah, no,
HVAC?
that's great. Thank you.
All right, the last one I wanted to talk about was our district-wide lighting upgrade. So this project's already underway. We started construction in April. Orion is already complete. Garfield is on punch list, and they started on Taft this week. So there's a couple before and after pictures of the same classroom. On the bottom, you could see the lighting color and quality is much better with the LED. Reminder, this also includes controls that'll be better for energy efficiency. And one of our multi-use rooms at the top just to show a different kind of space. But just a couple sample pictures. We're happy to share more. But the response from Orion that we've gotten has been great. Orion, sorry.
It's okay.
And they love their new lighting.
Especially in the
So-
historical building.
Yeah.
It's up those hallways, those staircases, it's great. It's a
Very
better-
nice.
One of the concerns, the big concerns was, are we retrofitting lights in buildings which we will later modernize, right? So how are you prioritizing, because I think it said it runs through December of next year, is that right? The project?
Correct.
Okay, okay, so there's another year and a half to go on this, right?
Absolutely.
So how are you prioritizing, how are you prioritizing knowing that the facilities master plan is yet to be approved and the follow-on projects?
So we're doing our best based on the facilities master plan right now. It's a little bit these initial schools are a little bit of a guesstimate. As we get the implementation plan done and as we kind of get a little bit closer to that, kind of in June, and then when we get it finalized, we'll go through and we'll sit down with the contractor and we'll back out any buildings that we need to back out of the contract. We'll get a credit for it back, and we'll do that. But we're doing our best guesstimate now based on the feedback we've heard. But once we get the implementation plan kind of finalized in June, like you said, we still have a year plus left to go. We'll go forward and we'll sit down with the contractor and do a deductive change order for anything that may be overlapping with the implementation plan for Measure S. I apologize.
Guessing it's not coincidental that Orion, Garfield, and Taft were the first three, given that they had the biggest improvement in the last bond. So was that your thinking of prioritization?
Yep. You hit it you hit the nail on the head. And then we reshuffled once we had the HVAC projects, because we didn't want that ongoing with the HVAC projects over the summer. So we reshuffled that schedule so there weren't multiple projects going on there at the same time with different contractors. So I think you're going down the right path.
If I could add, early on in this project, when we created the schedule with the contractor, we coordinated it with the master plan. So in the master plan, if there were buildings shown to be demolished, we tried to put those toward the end of the schedule so that we could get a credit back if the board decided in the implementation plan that we were going to move forward with those.
Is there financial risk on this because of the tariff situation?
No, we signed this contract with a guaranteed price before the tariff situation. And so they are locked into the price that they've already provided us.
They probably bought the materials long ago.
Yeah, they did they do very large bulk pricing because this is their specialty, HVAC and lighting. This is what Southland does. So they buy all that in bulk. And I believe the contract was approved in October of last year, I believe. Yeah, October of last year, and they were chomping at the bit to make that order as soon as possible so they could get the all the material in. So they have large containers with all of our material stored.
I'll add to on the tariff question, the HVAC equipment that the board approved to early procurement, we got in just before the tariffs also.
So Southland is the lighting contractor, correct?
That is correct.
And what labor were they? That was another question that came up, I remember, back in the fall. Are they hiring local union folks to do this installation work at the schools?
Yeah, so they're a member of the local and I forgot which local it is, but it is
You need to know that.
it's I forgot the number, but it's the one local here in San Mateo County. And they're hiring any labor that they need, they'll pull from that hall.
And presumably they're doing this work. Is it done after school then, or when?
Yeah, it's done on off hours.
Off hours.
Yep.
All right, any other questions on the current projects? Okay, so nothing else in 5.3 then. Anything to report in 5.4 on Measure T? Rick or Martin?
Hello, yes, the project that's still with Measure T is the solar project that's out there for the 9 school sites. Currently, we're still in the design. We're about 90% on the design structural. We're working with the contractor right now. Let me see what else. Mm, we've shared all the plans with the sites. You've seen them during our FMP meetings. I've met with the sites individually to talk about the locations of these. We took into consideration any programs that they're having at the campuses. There was a couple of sites where we had to make some adjustments, such as Henry Ford and McKinley. And that's over a loss of some panels in our facility yard. But it's not going to make a big difference in the overall scheme because we have enough solar panels out at the field as well as in the playground and facilities. What else?
So you're in the design phase now, correct?
Yeah,
So
we're at
actually,
90% of it.
What's the rough anticipated schedule of when
Starting
the
November.
contractor would be selected and start buying these materials? Because next we're going to ask you about tariffs, probably.
Well, we're in the same boat, right? So we are working with a NV5 as our consultant, and then we had hired Holt Renewables to assist us with the construction of the panels. I'm sure we've procured some of the panels already. And some of I'm sorry, I'm new to this. The steel that's going to be used. I think some of the stuff that we're still trying to procure is the copper for it, which we know that there is a tariff on it, 25% potentially started in April. Yeah. Other than that, construction date is November, and we have 6 months to accomplish this to be grandfathered into the NEM2. Yeah.
So is there a potential big impact on the cost of the project based on the anticipated tariff on the steel and the panels and such?
It was just as VPCS was saying, there's some contingency to 10% there in case it's needed. But I don't think so because it's all been in the contract already.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions on Measure T? Okay, that takes us then to 5.5, and we have a number of items under here. Looking at the once again the January through March 31st period, starting with 5.5.1, which is bond expenditures, and there's 2 attachments there for one for Measure T and one for Measure S. Let's start with Measure T. We can see Holt Renewables in there. You mentioned them, Martin. That's the contractor on the solar project. Any questions on the Measure T 5.5.1B attachment?
I had my question asked and answered already, so I appreciate that. I do have one, just probably a silly one, but when I look at some of the, I hate an arrow. I need a mouse, guys. I'm sorry.
Please bring a mouse for Janet to the next
I will.
meeting.
Sorry, I'll bring one up. I have a little thing on me. So I'm so sorry. So a lot of it's a district project support. I understand things need to be billed back to the bond. $2.13. Is that like copying something?
Wait, can I just clarify? Are you on measure S or
I'm
measure
sorry.
T?
I'm an S.
Okay, we're gonna come to S
Oh,
in a
sorry.
second. I just wanted to
I
make sure
clicked
there's
on-
anything on T.
Sorry.
No problem. Um,
Disregard what I just said.
we've got time. Was there anything on the measure T list, Janet, that you wanted to ask about? Okay. Anybody else? Any questions on T? Okay, great. So we can move to measure S now. So please, yeah, ask your question.
Okay, so under the financials there, and there's a lot that say Redwood City School District, Redwood City, you know, and I get you have to bill back to the project when you do something, you know, that has to do with the bond measure. But $2.13, it goes everywhere from 7,000 to $2.13. Is that, and I get it, the sense, they add up. I have budget, I get it. What would that be? I'm just.
So the district project support, it's for the bond accountant salary and benefits. So $2 could be one of the benefits.
$2.13 as a benefit? Okay.
And Erica
Because
is
we
the
had-
person, so
we
you
had-
can ask her what she
We had
did with her
also
pack of gum.
Some retro pay, so timesheet pay, so was like a very small amount, and then of course the benefit was small.
Oh, okay. I just was like, okay, if we've gone from 7,000 to $2.13, I'm like, okay.
As
Oh.
you can see,
Yeah,
this
there
is
is
the
$1.90
total from
I missed
January
that one.
1st through the end of March.
That was Erica's raise, $4.90. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. That makes sense, because, you know,
Has to be due to the retro pay.
okay, so that.
So whenever we see district project support, that specifically is
That's me.
bond accounting.
Yes.
And you,
Yes.
that's specifically you.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, yeah, I understood that. And then I got the explanation, thank you very much, regarding the HVAC with the DSA fees, so that makes sense to me now. I just couldn't figure out why we kept having those fees, and now you explained it to me. So those are my questions, thank you. I think I'm good.
One question, there's two entries for QKA Architects, there's one entry for Taft, one Selby, but Hoover has two entries. Can you guys explain that?
On the fourth, one's on the 18th.
One on the fourth one.
There were 2 invoices paid
Sure.
during this period of.
Got that, but why was Hoover School charged twice for architectural fees when the other schools are charged once?
That's
Two different fees.
they're progressive invoices, so that's not the total fee. You know what I'm saying? So that's each invoice that we're getting. The contract is for
Like the one
somewhere,
like-
it's somewhere in the $500,000 range. If I'm not mistaken,
Per school or,
per school.
okay, so you're just saying it just so happens that Hoover got two
That Hoover
invoices.
had 2 invoices in that period.
Oh, that's,
Hold on.
Thank you.
Hold on.
I think it was one was paid a little bit late. That was the Hoover one. And then it fell into this period of time between January and March, end of March. So that's why it shows 2.
So the work might have been from the previous period, you're saying, but it was paid in March?
Yes, it was paid late one, was paid late.
Okay, whereas Roosevelt, Adelante, Taft would have been paid in the December 31st period?
I have to look that up.
No problem.
okay.
Valid question though.
But basically you're saying that it's roughly 500,000 was budgeted per school for architectural fees.
Yeah, no,
And so
under contract.
this is
yeah.
just a timing
It's
thing.
just a timing thing, exactly.
And are they done now or are they still working on these?
No, we'll pay all the fees through the end of the project, so the architect stays on board during construction. And so if there's questions that come up, they have to answer. If there's something uncovered in the field that wasn't visible, that they have to make an adjustment to their drawings for, and that's all included in their fee.
And when you mentioned earlier, the 5 million is the rough cost of this summer's HVAC
Yep.
project. Does that include the architect's fees?
No,
on the schools,
that
or
5 million was that's what we call the hard cost. That's the construction cost only. Typically you would account for on an HVAC project about 25% soft costs. So that 5 million plus 25% to cover all of your fees, your architects, your inspectors, your DSA fees, your CDA submission fees, your construction management fees. All of that would be included in that extra percentage. So the 5 million is the hard cost.
So that 500,000 is about 10%, which is standard
Yep.
for architectural fees.
Right on.
They're doing MEP design as well, I'm
Yep.
assuming. Okay.
Yep.
I just said, again, I'm asking general questions because I'm just learning. The DSA fees, and you mentioned that in one of the in your written presentation, the Department of State Architect. What do they're not the architects on here. They just
No.
So anytime a school has architectural drawings, the state agency has to review it, and they charge us. That's a lot of money there. It's
Yeah.
like $100,000.
It is a lot of money.
It is a
You're
lot.
absolutely right. So, I kind of like to relate it back to a house remodel because kind of a lot of people have been through that. When you do a house remodel, you submit your plans to the city, and the city reviews it. The city does not have jurisdiction over school districts. Jurisdiction for school districts falls with the state. And so DSA is the authority having jurisdiction over school district construction. So the plans get submitted, your plans and your specifications for the project get submitted to DSA, the Division of the State Architect. And they do the review, they stamp and approve your drawings, and that's what that fee is.
And if I could add, your DSA approved inspector is paid separately,
Yeah.
so that's not included in that fee.
So yeah,
So on the next report, you guys will probably see
Yeah.
the cost for the inspector.
yeah, because great point, Nick. And when you do a city, the city has their own inspectors, and that's included in your permit fee as well, but that is not included with DSA. The district has to hire your own inspector to inspect the project.
Wow. Do you find in practice that you get value for the money there, or is it just
That's
not a political forum.
That's a very loaded question, but
But
I will say this. Here's
Actually, as background, I mean, for the city, we have an architectural advisory committee that works with developers. And most of our developers, I think, and the community think that, they do it's actually a very valuable job. Janet, I think, will attest to that. Of course, those are just volunteers like the people on the planning commission, but still, so I mean, it's conceivable they could be getting something for our
So
bucks.
here's how I'll answer that. The Field Act, which is what created DSA, which is what created the jurisdiction of DSA over schools in California. It was 1920s, I want to say, 1930s maybe. And then it was shortly after a massive fire at a school in Southern California, where unfortunately there was a lot of loss of life of students. Since then, there has not been a loss of life of a student in a fire in a school. So is it worth it? Yeah, probably it is.
Maybe it is, yeah.
Are they an easy governmental agency to deal with? Absolutely not. They are a very difficult, they are one step below Oshpod. I heard you say you're a healthcare. I spent about
DSA, city, county.
I like to say in the state of California and there's a few nuclear power plants. Those are the highest level of construction, hospitals and schools. Those are your top three. The structural value of schools and hospitals are built above the standard structural value. All those things come into play. No, they're not an easy governmental agency to deal with, but they do serve a purpose.
Okay.
Safety of our children, I'll never question that.
Sure, we're in compliance.
Yeah.
So I have a justification.
Okay, please.
For Hoover. So the first one is for December through January invoice, and the second one is for the January and February invoice. And then it was missed, the next three, they were missed. So you will see it on the next one. They were paid in April. So we actually, they were missed by when I sent the batch, they just processed the first one on the PDF, not the rest of the invoices.
So we would have seen double entries for all these, you're saying, schools, if
So,
they had been
yes,
paid properly.
Yes.
Okay.
yes. So you will see it on the next, in April as an expense.
So it'll be 3 months from now, and we'll be asking you the exact same question
Yes.
all over again.
All good.
What is, it's a small amount, but what is Gray Owl Capital receiving from the bond?
Uh,
It's at the bottom of the list. I mean, it's not very much money, but I'm just curious what the
That's
vendor.
for the printing lease. We pay $116.40. Copy machine.
Oh, for like
printing.
copy machine
Yeah,
leads.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. Okay. Odd name for but a capital. Okay. Any other questions on the Measure S list?
No.
All good there?
Nice.
Okay, great. Let's move into I think 552. There were no change orders.
Great.
553, there were no bid contracts in the period.
There were.
Oh, there were? Sorry, did I miss that?
Yeah, some for Q, some for S.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Quick question.
Oh my, yeah, you're right. I was looking at the wrong attachment. Sorry.
For HVAC units, is there a reason why we have carrier versus Daikin? I like one little bit of carrier.
Yes. So Carrier is the district's actual preferred manufacturer for HVAC units. For these 4 projects and the new Freon requirement, we could only get the carriers for the package units. And for the split units that are in the classrooms, Daikin was the only manufacturer with those particular units ready and available for install this summer for design and install. So for these, we went with Daikin, and for the next round, we'll revisit whether we want to stay with Daikin or go back to Carrier.
Oh, that's not fun for maintenance, but
No.
yeah. Thank you.
Wow, good question.
Other questions on 553, no bid contracts? All righty. 554,
There's none.
there's nothing there. And then 555, no current litigation or public disputes related to the bond program in the period. So that takes us to what we like to refer to as the Erica Show. 5.6, and walking through the financial reports for the period. And Rick, feel free to ask any questions you want here, because this can be quite confusing, the first and 18th time you see it.
What is the fund income and expense summary report? This is for the period ending March 31st, 2025. We can see all the funds from the beginning of the program all the way to the end of March. And these are the actuals. We added for Fund 21 the interest revenue of 14.5 thousand. The expenditures have increased, and we added the school facility funds. You can see that 13.7 million added to Measure T, specifically for the solar project phase 2. The expenses, you can see for HALT renewables, 345,000 so far. And the cumulative of all funds expenditures is 214.1 million.
I don't know if you said it, but just as this is for the Measure T
Yes.
program. Yeah.
For Measure T.
What are the different funds? Fund 21, Fund 40.
So the Measure T, the Go bonds, Fund 21, Fund 40 is the special reserve funds for capital outlay project. Prop 39 Fund 1, it's the was
It's
Yes.
resignation or-
yeah, Prop 39, and then you can see the impact fees, development fees, Fund 25 in blue.
And so the funds are labeled as the standard account code structure for the state of California, so we don't get to randomly choose numbers.
Yeah.
Fund 21 is reserved for general obligation bonds. Fund 40, as Erica said, is special reserve. That's where we move our state facilities matching grant funds into, so it's not, although it's a major T project, it's not commingled with major T dollars that have different reporting requirements. And then Fund 01 is our general operating fund, where some monies come into. Fund 25 is our impact fees from developer fees that go into Fund 25, and then moved out or used appropriately for the usage.
Thank you. I won't remember any of that.
Yeah, well, but for the Measure T bond, which is the top row, I guess, is it correct, Erica, to say that the balance is 735,000?
No, that's just a difference in booking between funds that just happens to show there. The ending fund balance of Measure T is 14.6 million.
Oh, because you're adding
Yeah, we
the
added that 13.7 million, so now it's 14.6 million.
Okay, so the 13.7 or 13.8 gets added to the bond
Yes,
proceed
yeah.
revenues above.
Yes.
Okay, with you.
So that's what's currently left to be
Yes.
spent,
To be spent.
which is part of the solar.
Yes, it's specifically the solar subject.
And for the sake of previous explanation.
Yes.
There's 14 million that are towards Measure T projects still available. 13 point, almost 14 million now are in Fund 40. They are not technically Measure T.
That's right.
Dollars. I just want to make sure.
Well, that's why I was asking the question, what's left of Measure T dollars is where
Roughly 700,000, it kind of aligns with that 735.
that's because I'm just taking revenue minus expenditure, and that looks like it's 700,000 roughly. So once that's spent, our oversight of Measure T is done. That's why I'm watching that number go down. Okay, great. Thank you, Erica.
The next one is 5.6B1.
56B1.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this report is from the Financial 2000 Financial District Financial System Report. It's a board report, and it's a supporting document for the income summary report I just presented before. It's just showing the year-to-date actuals as of March 31st, 2025. Shows the revenue, the interest revenue, and then the expenditure amounts were the 336,000 for Fund 21.
Once again, Measure T here, right? Yep.
No question?
Nope. Good.
Okay, the next one, it's I added another report similar, but this one is for Fund 40. I wanted to show you that the 13.7 million has been added for spending for the solar project.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the next report is from the accountability system. This is the
which one is that?
5.6C.
B.
C.
C.
Yes. And this is a budget and the expenditures report showing the budgeted amounts for different projects, less expenditures.
So Rick, this is the ones we've seen so far are at the fund level. This is actually at the project level now. Like how much was spent of Measure T at Garfield or at, Hoover.
Yes, you can see the different projects on the left side, and then in the columns, the budget and expenditures, and how much was paid and processed for payment and held retention, and how much is the total expenditures. The total expenditures ties back to the fund income and expense summary report I just showed you in 5.6A, the $200.2 million. And the budget is 228.8 million.
Is the solar project going to be tracked in here or somewhere else?
You can see it's showing as a multiple.
What's it under? Is it under, oh, I see it.
Yeah,
Multiple
it's
sites,
multiple
solar,
sites.
phase 2,
So, yes.
page 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Clifford and Kennedy have the same exact amount remaining in construction, the 36,524. Is that the same?
I think that is for there was a reclassification of expense. It was EV charging license that we had to expense it this year. That is why it's the same amount.
Okay.
It was for 10 years. It
For
was
EV charging?
EV charging license, green lots. Was, at top of my head, I don't remember which year we started. But each year it gets reclassified, so the expense showing up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the next report, it's also from the accountability system. The sources and budgets report 5.6D. This report shows the updated budgets, and you can see the funding sources have been updated. Fund 40 is showing the 13.7 million on the last page. Okay. And then if you want to see the multiple,
oh, sorry.
yes, the multiple solar project.
Yeah, my question is on that one. Is that going to be accounted at each school site once it's figured out, or will it always just be kept under one project? Or will you actually be divvying it out and showing it by site?
So
It will be done by site once you get to, okay.
And you can see the project contingency built in 1.5 million under this project at the bottom.
Does the solar project include this building as well, or just?
no, this one was done on phase 1.
Oh, it's already been done.
Yeah, this has been
Okay.
done. Rick, so it's just to update you some history on it. So the district office, Clifford, Atlantis, Selby, and Roosevelt were phase 1 of the solar project. That was completed with during the Measure T. Now we're going into solar phase 2. For the nine remaining sites.
Thanks.
I forgot to bring up this question when we were talking about the facilities master plan, but this reminded me of it. Does the solar include the charter school sites?
No.
Okay, so there's no plan to do solar at is it for
It was
campuses?
in the plan.
Okay,
But the solar panels, because we're using canopy type, but there was no location at the charter schools currently. We can't put anything on top of a building, an existing building that's there. It would require a lot of work, a lot of construction work. Yeah, so that's why we did not include. We did look at them. We looked at Hawes, we looked at Fair Oaks. There's just no space for that canopy type there.
so when we talked about, I mean, it was, I think 2 meetings ago, we talked a lot about the the energy consumption and because we were talking about the LED retrofit project and the solar offset. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, what was said was the solar that we're putting in will fully offset the planned usage of the district.
Okay.
But is that still true, even though 4 of the sites aren't included? Is
Well,
there
it is-
enough solar that
Well,
essentially?
At those 9 sites plus these 4 that have been in play, is to offset at least 95% of it.
Okay, and so the
And-
4
and-
sites that aren't getting any,
Yeah.
you're still paying PG&E for electricity there.
Those sites are paying for electricity.
Yeah.
Well, those are,
The
yeah.
district's not paying for electricity at those sites per se.
Okay.
Right, I mean.
Those schools are paying their utility
Yes.
bill.
Correct.
And then, sorry to go back to sorry, Erica, just pause here real quick while I'm thinking about it. There was at, I think 2 of the community meetings, there were representation from some of the charter schools asking about the facilities master plan and advocating for their schools to be. So could you just describe what the overall plan is for the 4, is it 4 sites that are owned by the district, but are leased by these charter schools?
Yeah, so two of the sites are the charter schools, right? That's the old Fair Oaks campus, where we have Connect and we have KIP. And then the Haws, formerly known as Haws, we have Rocket Ship there. Yeah. They've given feedback. on the
And
facility
they're,
master
I can't remember, are they in the facilities master plan?
plan. Yes.
Okay. Are there other sites? I'm not sure why I had the number 4 in my mind.
Well, the 4 are the sites that we closed, right? And two of the other sites are being leased out, which is the former Adelante, 3150 Granger, and then the 815 Allerton, which is being leased out to a private entity.
And those you don't have to include in the facilities master plan because they're not part of the public school district.
Actually, we did look at them, Carl, and actually 3150 Granger will be receiving solar panels. We have the room for that campus.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the.
No,
you have something
yeah, I got a
there.
question on that.
Yep.
And it's not currently being used as a school site?
Not as a district site, no.
So why just because we own it, we have to do it? Why are we?
We're
What do
doing it for future. We have that some of the site we still utilize.
Okay, so all
So the
our
whole
other schools
campus-
will get taken care of first,
Are you
right?
talking about a specific site or
She's talking about
3150?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, will all our other schools get it first and then, I mean. I'm
No,
just-
so right now it's projected that the 9 sites will have,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then within the 6-month period, those 9 school sites will have solar, including 3150 Granger.
Unrelated question.
Yep.
Are we doing anything with athletic fields in Measure S? Or in the facilities
yes.
master plan?
There's been talk in some of our meetings with the staff.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I recall from some of the community meeting review that some schools actually requested very specific things around fields and others didn't have anything about it. So.
Cool.
Okay, sorry, back to you, Erica. I think.
Board report I ran for Measure S. This is the 5.6 E. This is shows the revenue, it's interest revenue of 1.7 million. As of March 31st. And then the expenditures have doubled since end of December. Now it's almost $3 million. The classified salary and employee benefits that's get counted salaries and benefits, and capital outlay, it's BDCS fees and architect fees. Expenditures.
So the 3 million there capital outlay in the period, you're saying that's roughly double what it was in the previous period? Okay, and that's made up of architect's fees. I think yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Nope, it's good.
5.6F report. This is for Measure S. And this is a report from the new system solutions. You can see we had expenditures regarding the Hoover HVAC upgrades, DSA fees, architectural fees, same as well for Roosevelt side, Adelante Salvi, and then TAP. Planning fees, only DSA and architectural fees this period. And the rest is the district project support that I have as the accountant salary. And
We're not seeing anything on the lighting project because there was nothing in this period, correct? Not yet, okay.
and the total expenditures of all years is 4.7 million. As of March.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Erica? Double the bond, double the number of systems you're working in. Okay, anything on any discussion items from section 5 before we close out with the future meeting dates? Anything left? Okay.
For maybe it's next agenda, just the committee members, where we're at with filling them,
Yes.
and if we want to assess.
Okay, so hold that thought for a second. Let's do the 5-7. Is everyone okay with August 6th and November 5th still?
Well, 6.
Not August 6th.
Hard to say. We have a family vacation schedule that ends somewhere in the middle of that week.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly what day.
Well, my suggestion is, since we have a tentative, let Olivia know if you firm up and for sure can't make it. And I don't think we want to change the date unless there's any other objection, because we don't have everybody here, but thanks for letting us know. The important thing is, as we get close to August 6th, making sure we have a quorum. Okay, and then November 5th, as far as everyone knows, is okay at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yes, not on future agenda topics. Okay, so Jen, you were going to talk about future agenda topic or bring up something. What were you asking about?
Well, it's
With
future
membership?
Yeah, Jacqueline, I don't know last time she came, if she still wants to be a member, or if we offered feedback from her as an existing member.
Yes, so thank you for the reminder. So at the last meeting, Jacqueline had missed 2 meetings, and we talked about, is there some action we want to take?
If we
And
only
now
have
it's
6
3
members-
meetings.
If we only have 6 members, is the quorum 4 still, or is it 3?
So we have 7 members now with Rick's addition. So take half and round up. So 4 is the quorum number.
Currently, but if it dropped to 6, if Jack
It would still be 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question would be, you've obviously reached out to her staff.
Since the last.
And the last meeting, she showed interest in wanting to remain. Okay.
That was
Have you reached?
3 months ago, you mean, when you talked to her, but you haven't talked to her. Okay.
So Carl, have you reached out to her as the chair of this committee?
I have not reached out in the last 3 months since the last meeting.
Okay, I really don't want to just, I know we can remove her because she's missed the amount of space. I really don't want us to take action to remove a member that wants to stay. Maybe if you reached out.
I'm happy to do so. Yeah.
Is that kosher? Is that, okay.
yeah.
I really think reaching out to her and just, in a very non-threatening way, not that you will be, but I just need to say it, in a very calming way, just see where she is, because she she may want to be engaged and be on this committee, but she may not be capable of being on the committee. And she may feel uncomfortable letting go of it because, I think some of us feel that way. We want to be engaged, but we may not in our life right now. It may not be a good fit. But find out where she's standing, because if she wants to stay engaged and it's not going to affect, dramatically our quorum, we don't have someone waiting to come on to this committee.
No, but if she misses another one, it's like a whole year. She hasn't.
That is
been,
a whole year
like,
then.
That's half a
So
term.
reach out to her and could you just,
I'm happy to do it. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, so I might not be able to communicate as effectively as someone else. If there's someone who wants to I'm happy to do it in English. I don't know.
Spanish, but
I'm certainly willing to make the attempt. And see what if she engages at least, and then I can report back on that.
okay, if you have trouble with that, then reach back out to me because I have a colleague that does speak Spanish and maybe I can engage that conversation. I'm just not quite ready to let.
And I'm not suggesting we vote tonight. In fact, it's not on the agenda to vote tonight.
Right.
The question on the table, so we will definitely do that.
Okay.
Great suggestion. The question on the table is, do we want to put on the agenda for the next meeting if Jacqueline's not able to make it, the formal action to remove her after a year of not participating?
Okay, I'm good with that, but let's give that one. more
Yeah,
or
of
two.
course.
Okay.
Yep.
But I really want you to reach out to me if you can't do it, and I will.
I will definitely do it.
Okay.
And I'll let you know if I have any trouble.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Are there any other items to add to the next agenda that anyone would like to or suggest?
Okay.
I will put down here, just to remind myself, approval of the 23-24 reports. Because you'll definitely have drafts of those, and hopefully we'll be able to approve them at the next meeting.
In regards to the facilities master plan, by August, where should we be with that? Like the final will be out, board approved.
The final should be out and board approved, and we should be working towards the final implementation plan by then.
What's probably maybe a question for Mike, just the facilities master plan, is there currently one and we're redoing it, or are we just totally coming up with a new one right now? How does that work?
They would know how they're folding in the previous master plan, but there was one created around when Measure T was passed. So that was in 2013, and 2014, somewhere around there. And so this one feels like just a fresh start. I'm sure some of the ideas from the original facilities master plan were reflected into this plan, but the needs of schools, the priorities of what the sites need, and the fact that Measure T addressed so many of the critical issues that they were looking to address with that first round of the bond. The needs for the plan are just different today than they were in 2014, 2015.
Right. Okay.
And yes, the last one was studied as at the start of this process, and the discussions on the projects that were remaining on that were had with the site committees.
So we're starting with you for all the discussion on the outreach. You sort of started with what's remaining from the 2013.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, exactly. We're not taking it and saying, hey, this is the base, but we're taking it and saying, hey, these were some. Are these still germane to this new master plan?
And Rick, I'll say like one thing that's quite obvious when you look at the plan, like TK was not a thing in 2014 and 2015, and it's a critical need right now. Like the sites just aren't set up for to have the number of TK classrooms that are needed there. Portables that exist on the school sites, they didn't exist there before. They were added in over the course of either construction or as needs changed, and being able to move those to permanent facilities, like those are kind of things that you have to go back and say, let's refresh this plan and take into consideration things that are current today that may not have been true back in 10 years ago.
Rick, if you're interested, I have the master plan doc. I'm happy to email it to you. I don't think it's on the district website.
Pardon me?
Is it on the district website?
It's in the
Yeah.
board agenda from when we had our study session. So if you go back to the 23rd of April.
Yeah, the current one.
No,
is-
the 10-year-old one.
Oh, the old one. It is on
I was not able to find the last one on the website. I think it should be on the website, but I can't find it. But if you would like a copy, I'm happy to send it to you. Yeah. Any other last questions or one thing, Olivia, I don't see Rick on the website under this committee membership. So if whoever does the website could add him in on the CBOC page in the list of members. And then thank you you jogged my memory. Rick, we still are missing two required members of the committee. This comes up every meeting. We need to have 7 members. With that requirement, we meet, but we also need to have one member that represents a taxpayer advocacy organization and one member that represents a business organization like a chamber of commerce. I don't think we've ever had the business organization representative. We did have the taxpayer organization representative. I think Carolyn was serving that role while she was on. So again, we'll ask the question, is there active outreach?
There's active outreach. I've mentioned it every time I'm at
Yeah.
chamber,
All the time.
but no one wants.
I mean, credit to Rick. I think he got up at the 3 community meetings, mainly because I was sitting there. He got up and said, "Hey, we have this bond oversight committee committee. We would like more members." I'm guessing nobody applied, Rick.
Applications are still going through.
Yeah.
So there is.
Our introductions, what are you all? So I'm general. I'm not in one of those groups. What are the 3 of you?
So I'm in I believe the parent designation.
I forget what mine is. I don't even
What are the
remember.
designated bucket?
I don't remember what mine is. It
Um,
was business slash.
Oh, it's listed. We should just.
I will tell you. So Janet, you're senior citizen. I don't know how that could be.
I am.
But
Yeah,
that's
that one.
and Jen, you're under parent guardian, same as me. Carl Metz is member at large, which I think is what your designation will be. Jacqueline is under parent and Jit Paul is parent as well. So it's great we're up to the 7. Thank you for joining, but we're still too short of 2 statutory required representatives on any CBOC in the state of California. And we've just not been able to fill those 2 roles. And I don't know why, because it's such a lovely thing. We do 4 times a year. We gather, talk about contracting and HVAC equipment. I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of this?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Statutorily required.
But since we're talking about this, Rick, and you're new, if you know of anyone who is part of the chamber or part of a taxpayer group that would be interested in joining, as you know, we make the on-ramp very smooth and seamless. And it's four evenings a year with donuts. So it's, I mean, oh,
Wait, what?
oh, you guys missed that earlier? I'm sorry. Okay. With that levity, can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Someone.
Seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you in August.
Oh, they didn't get to-